Hi, this is Wes from Wisely, one of the organizers of our Fundraising and Technology Expo. This is a recording of our breakout session on November 12th, featuring Megan Watson of Silent Partner Software, who will be demonstrating some of the capabilities of Sumac, in particular, the action tracks that allow you as an organization or you as a fundraiser to truly understand what steps you'll be taking with your high value donors. Next up, it's yours truly, who will be demonstrating the Wisely software and how predicting how much and when a donor will give can lead towards fundraising success. And lastly, we have Alex Jivov, who will be demonstrating the Hopeful software, which helps find and capture more donors online using social media. Enjoy.
All right, you can see my screen now, right? Thumbs up? Okay.
I gotcha.
Perfect. All right, so hi everyone, and thank you for joining us for this quick demo of Sumac CRM. As Wes said, my name is Megan Watson, and I'm the VP of Customer Success here at Silent Partner Software. I'm a proud member of the Silent Partner team. I have also worked in the nonprofit sector for the past decade somehow, and I am also a self-proclaimed database nerd. So this kind of fundraising and technology expo and being able to host a session like this with all of you is something I'm very excited and passionate to be able to do. So today I'm going to be talking about how Sumac CRM can help you with segmenting your contacts and donors for outreach campaigns so that you're putting the right message in front of the right people to increase their likelihood to give. We're also going to take a look at how Sumac can help you with stewarding those donors after you've secured the gifts in order to grow their future giving amounts. Now, Sumac, as I mentioned, it's a CRM. It handles contact relationship management for nonprofits. It stores all of your contacts, so that could be your donors, your members, event attendees, maybe your clients or staff or other organizations, really anyone. It also stores all of the interactions that you've had with those contacts in one place. So you've got a central location where you can see all of the contacts and the one-to-many relationships that you've got with each of them. And if you've got a solid database like Sumac in your corner, you can really leverage your data to maximize your fundraising efforts. And I want to show you how you can take some of the incredible ideas and insight that the speakers we've heard today have shared and apply them in a tool like Sumac. Now, because Sumac stores so many different interactions with people, each of those interactions can be used as a means to target someone for the right type of solicitation. In Sumac, you can organize all of this into a campaign to help plan out exactly who you will contact and in which segments you'll be contacting them. So let's take a look at an example. You can see I've got a bit of history here in my campaigns list, but I'm going to be focusing on this 2020 annual year-end campaign. If I expand on it, you can see I've got a few different levels to this campaign. And the top level here is where I define my overall audience. And in this example, I am targeting anyone who has ever been a donor to my organization or a member to my organization, and I'm being careful to exclude anybody who's currently a client or a volunteer because I don't want to solicit them at this point. But now that I've got this overall audience defined, I can start segmenting that audience into smaller, more targeted groups. So let's take a closer look at that. The first segment here I've got under my overall audience are actually my exclusions. They're people who, although they are part of my audience, I want to exclude them because they've told me not to solicit them, or maybe I don't have a valid email or mailing address for them. It seems small, but it's such a helpful thing to be able to start this way because it means that I never run the risk of accidentally contacting someone inappropriately and then sullying that relationship. I'm able to know that I'm focusing my resources on people who are actually appropriate for me to be connecting with. And then just below, you can see I've got an additional segment where I'm starting to target my lists into better groups. So I've got a segment here for members, so I can target them with a member specific ask. I've got another segment for my donors so that they're getting a targeted ask as well. And then I've got a final segment here for people who aren't currently members or donors. But what's cool is I can drill down even further. If I expand on my member segment or my donor segment, you can see I can filter it down even further to make sure that in my member segment, I've got some members who are also donors. I want them to get a really relevant ask. And then I've got these other members who haven't given to me before. So I want to give a different message to those people. And in my donor segment, based on their giving level, I'm targeting them as well. People who've given me over $5,000, I've got a message that I need to give them that's a little bit different than people who have given me at the mid-level range, and certainly different from people who are smaller, kind of maybe early on donors who I can't go out and ask them for $50,000 if they've only been giving me $20 a month for a little while. But once I've got all of this defined here in my Sumac campaigns, I know that I'm sending the right mailing to each of these groups. And whether we're sending this outreach out by email or direct mail, you can do all of that mailing directly out of Sumac, which is fantastic because it lets you personalize each message to each donor with the data from your database. And that can really increase your response rates. So imagine that not only are you ensuring that your campaign targets are getting the most appropriate content possible for them, but your messaging to them is also as personalized as it can be with the details you know about them. And my recommendation is to make your messaging really to the point and make sure that your call to action in your ask is explicit. So if you're directing them to go somewhere like your website to make a donation, make it as easy as possible for the donor to get to your website's donation page immediately. You can run as many mailings out of Sumac as you need. You can also do an export if you're using an external mailing service in that case. But really, once you've got this campaign in place, you can continue targeting these segments with a series of messages throughout the duration of your campaign. Now, like I just said a moment ago, in those campaign mailings, you directed your donors, or you've likely directed your donors to your online giving page on your website. And in all of your social media posts you've generated with the help of something like Hopeful, again, you're directing all of those people to your website's donation page. So another great thing about a tool like Sumac is that we actually provide donation pages that sync back to your database. So if the donation page on your website is powered by Sumac, as soon as someone gives online, not only does that donor get an immediate confirmation email to make sure they're automatically acknowledged for that gift, all the information about that donor and the gift they have made is captured back in the database. And I can show you a quick example of a Sumac donation page. I've just inserted it on the sumac.com website, but this is the page we provide. So as soon as someone gives on here, they're immediately going to get their thank you, and it's immediately captured back in the database as well so that the gift has been secured and you can start the right follow-up. Sumac can even notify you, by the way, as soon as that gift comes in. So you can generate the receipt, send an additional thank you if you'd like to, or again, begin stewarding that donor to increase their likelihood to give in the future, or to increase the amount that they're going to give as well. And I want to show you a quick example actually of what Sumac can do as far as notifying you of these things. Let me just free up some of the space on my screen. So we've got this tool in Sumac called notifiers, and it's really handy because it lets you tell your database when and how it should notify you or other members of your team of different activities that have occurred. So as soon as these activities take place, you're notified and you can start the follow-up process right away. I've got a couple of examples here. If I get a corporate gift, if I've received a gift from a first-time donor, a new major gift or a new mid-level gift, anything like that, I'm automatically notified by my database so that I can take the right initiative as my next step. And process for these kinds of things is really important, especially now with everyone working remotely and being kind of less connected. You're not able to know what your colleague is doing all the time or kind of have a quick chat in the office. So having your process built in and ready to follow is so important. It's a really important communication tool, and it just helps to ensure that everyone can stay on top of their work and that everyone is following the right steps to achieve the success that you're looking for. And Sumac can help with that as well. That's where our Sumac Reminders tool comes in to help. So Sumac Reminders, it provides a central calendar and to-do list for you and your team. It's designed to assist you in managing and planning any activities with the contacts in your database so that you can stay on top of that to-do list and make sure that there are no gaps or cracks in your processes that a donor could fall through. It gives you a central place to manage things like your donor follow-ups, your planning processes. It just, like I say, helps everyone stay on the same page about what needs to be done next. So I personally think that the most exciting feature in Reminders is a tool called Action Plans, which lets you define a checklist of steps that needs to be completed. I've got a couple of examples of action plans that I can talk through here today. But what I love about it is as soon as you get that notification that the gift came in through your website or that big donation that you were waiting for has been entered into the database, you can immediately create the right action plan for that scenario and get started in your follow-up. So for the examples I've got here today, I'll start out, I've got this one here that is for cultivating a large donor. So I'll double click and bring that up for you. Action plans lets you progress through and check off items in a checklist in the action plan as they are completed. And you can see that each step in the action plan can be assigned to a particular person on your team to make sure that each step of the process is carried out by the right person at the right time. These action plans are a fantastic tool for donor stewardship. You can drive your donors through the right follow-up series to be successful in how you're planning to grow them. And another thing that I really love about action plans is that while each individual step is assigned to a single user, the entire process can be shared among your team. After we've completed this step, let's say, Sumac records the date and the user who did this, and then it moves it ahead for me and it assigns it to the next person in the sequence so that they can carry it on from there. I also really love that action plan stores the history of all of the actions that have taken place with this donor, exactly who did them and when. I can quickly view past communications I've had with this donor, create new communications or add other types of records for this donor. Or if I want to see a bigger history, like I want to look at everything that's happened with this person, I can go right to their contact record. I'm alerted that this person is a potential big donor, so I know exactly how to work with them. And then I can jump over to their history tab here. So I've got the full history of all interactions with this person at my fingertips. And it's all centralized from me in one place within that action plan. So that's one example. I do want to show you another example just so you can see sort of the flexibility in action plans. I've got this other one here for cultivating a mid-level donor. So you can see this one is a little bit different because the way I'm going to try and grow a person as a mid-level donor requires a different process. And action plans are quite flexible. So even though I've got all of these predefined steps here in the process, as the person building the relationship with this donor, I know which of these things is most effective. So you can see that in this example, I've actually skipped a few of these steps, and they're all the ones that are related to setting up a meeting with my donor. And I've skipped those steps because I know that this donor is actually maybe the sister-in-law of one of my board members. So I don't need to formalize a meeting between her and my board member because she's already well connected to someone on my board. And perhaps that pre-existing relationship with someone on the board is the whole reason that we got the initial gift that triggered this action plan. So even within the action plan that's laid out here, you have the flexibility to make these kinds of adjustments to suit the needs of this donor. Now I'm just looking at the clock here. I think I'm about to run out of time. I know we've covered quite a few different ideas here, but whether you're already using Sumac and you're looking to expand how you're using the product today, or maybe you are a prospective client and you're interested in learning how this tool can help move your organization forward, I hope that this quick demo has at least given you some ideas and some insight in how the Sumac CRM can be leveraged to segment and steward your donors to achieve the success that you're capable of. So I think if there's a couple minutes left, I'm very happy to answer any questions if they've come in. Anything to go through? Oh, I think you're on mute still, Wes.
There we go. I didn't see any questions come through, Megan. The key takeaway for me that you said, which is so important, even at the best of times, being organized and having a process will produce results.
Absolutely.
And now, when we are less together than when we used to be, process is even more critical to our future success. And it's nice to be able to see the ability to set out action tracks and understand your campaigns in Sumac. I hadn't actually seen that before. Is the demo available on video? You bet. This thing is going to be on video again, and we will share it with all attendees. And Loretta, that was for Allison. Loretta, are there tutorials available on the Sumac website to watch again later? Megan, I get to answer that question.
Absolutely. So go to our, Loretta, I know you're an existing user, go to support.sumac.com. If you're interested in campaigns, we've got an overview of campaigns. We've also got articles related to using reminders and action plans. So definitely check out the support portal. Any existing Sumac client will know that if you ever need help, you can also reach out to us directly at support@sumac.com. If you are a prospective client who wants to learn a little bit more, don't hesitate to reach out to our sales team. That's at sales@sumac.com, because we try to keep it pretty simple here. And otherwise, if you want to reach me and any of my colleagues on the customer success team, you can reach us at satisfaction@sumac.com. Anyone you touch base with here is going to be more than happy to help.
And Megan, I've got one left here from Jacob, who's getting good at asking questions. I'm assuming there's a way to create new action plans in Sumac.
Yes. Oh, yeah, absolutely. These are the ones that I've made for my demo database to show it off today. But yeah, you can make your own action plans. And if you, as I say, check out the support portal to learn how, or set up a workshop or a training with one of our team members. Like we can point you in the right direction. If I had 5 more minutes, I could point you in the right direction here, but I don't want to take time away from anybody else.
Yeah, that's great. And can you make them private? Allison, I think what I'm going to do is guide you to the support team, who will probably spend a little bit of time with you figuring out what you're trying to accomplish there. Security is not always the easiest thing.
The short answer is yes, but it's hard to give a short answer to security in your database.
I was guessing just that. So I'm going to go next. Give me a little bit of time between this and my next presentation. So I'm going to start sharing my screen here. Thank you, Megan. I have to say, listening to your voice is always so soothing for me. I should do it more often.
Again, go to support.sumac.com and you'll hear my voice on every how-to video.
All right, so I'm sharing my screen here. I'd love to get a thumbs up to make sure that it's visible. Anyone? Yes, okay, thank you. That's perfect. So what we're looking at here is Wisely. Wisely, it is a fundraising acceleration tool or fundraising intelligence tool. And it's built around a concept that donor behavior is actually somewhat predictive. And within your CRM, there are all the variables required to make predictions about how much and when people will give. Are we confident that a donor will renew? Do we feel like they're at risk? And using that to help drive mid-level and major gift programs. We're focused on mid-level and major gift. Because if there is any low-hanging fruit at an organization we typically see, it is right there. Now, the very first thing that we want to do when you come into Wisely is start to utilize those predictions to our advantage. And how are we going to do that? Well, it is quite simple. Who are the best donors that we should be talking to today? Now, there is a concept of a portfolio. A portfolio is a relationship manager or relationship management concept to say, me as a fundraiser, Wes as a fundraiser, or in this database, I'm Fiona. So Fiona fundraiser, how many donors is she managing the relationship with? So what we're looking at here is our prospecting screen. And these are all the donors in our database who have a next gift level of $1 to $10,000. So this is their future giving in the next 12 months. And when do we expect them to make their next gift? Is it imminent? Is it in the next 6 months? Seems like a pretty good list of prospects that we'd want to target. So looking at these 6 prospects, I've got Marion Woods. Marion Woods looks like a top prospect according to our prediction engine. Her last gift was August 13th, 2019. And based on her previous giving as the biggest predictor for her, she looks like a mid-level gift donor with the potential to give 1 in 10. I'm simply going to take Marion and assign Marion to me, Fiona Wicks. Now, we could spend quite a bit of time on this screen going through some nuances, but understand this is forward-looking, predicting how much people are going to give, when those gifts are going to be made, and assigning them to fundraisers so you can steward and going forward, understand when they're going to give and how much. Stewardship is the first place in my presentation, which I'll talk about, give or take at about 2:40. You'll see how important that stewardship piece is to kick off those next gifts. So now that we've found someone that we want to talk to, what do we do with that person? So we're going to go look at the fundraiser view. And when we're looking at the fundraiser view, we have Fiona. Fiona has 1 task today and 2 tasks left for the week. These are those action tracks that Megan talked about. In particular, if we're looking at Silent Partner or Sumac or other CRMs, we will work with you to set up an integration. So we're getting all those actions directly from the CRM and all the donations and history. And we see that we've got an action today with Dora McCarthy, but in particular, I want to spend time on our portfolio. So what I've highlighted here is our portfolio screen, and it tells us that we've got 49 donors that we're managing now, and what stage they are at in solicitation history. So looking at Kindred Healthcare, I know that is one of my newly assigned prospects, because I'm just filtering on newly assigned prospects, is a top donor and new. So I might want to take a look at them as someone who I want to reach out to, and even understand what it is that they're doing as a donor. What's the relationship like, and how do I then engage? So there are some to-dos that are really set up to help a fundraiser or a volunteer fundraiser, for that matter, understand what is the next step with this donor. How do I secure that gift? And I can then take this Kindred Healthcare Inc. After I reach out to them. I can then say, well, I have identified them. They look like they might be a good donor. I'm moving them over to qualify. And I can then start to understand, do they want to connect with me? Do we have the right kinds of signs of wealth to help us understand potentially the right gift size, review our predictions to understand when to engage, and also use tasks to drive that forward. And this process becomes increasingly important when you're managing lots of donors and managing those relationships, and increasingly important as we do more of this digitally, because it's harder to remember people when you only meet them over Zoom or have a couple phone calls. Another very interesting thing to look at here is all of these goals that we have. And fundraisers typically have goals, and this particular goal for Fiona is $1.5 million. This is another place that we really start to leverage our AI predictions. So how much and when are people going to give? And we can see the cash in the door today at 55,000. We can see the opportunities, and an opportunity, if you're unfamiliar, is a target ask amount for a particular donor at $350,000. And our AI predicts that we've got about $185,000 remaining in our portfolio that we have not yet engaged on. So I can see at the beginning of the year, I'm going to have a lot of work to do to achieve my goal. I've got to engage with more donors, add more donors into my portfolio, and move through who I have today. So looking at first, assigning donors, finding the best donors that you should contact today. And this changes every day. As the year progresses, the dates change, and gift amounts will change based on previous giving. If people are moving, we're seeing some new wealth indicators. If the actions or interactions are being recorded, those are also analyzed to help us understand when that gift will be made and the size of the gift. So once we assign our donors, our fundraisers can obviously use this system or their existing system to drive things forward. And lastly, you then can start to manage what the team is doing. So you can see our overall team goal of $2.3 million raise is actually going really well. We won't thank Fiona for that. We'll thank someone else. Perhaps that was, it is Trang who's opened a lot of opportunities, and maybe Zachary and Zachary's killing it towards his goal too. So we can start to then understand how are we securing our revenue from these mid-level and major gift donors, and using predictions to actually identify and prioritize where we spend our time. So that is Wisely in just a couple of minutes. I'll remind you that we connect and sync with your CRM. So we don't want to replace your CRM. We just want to augment your intelligence about your donors. With that, I'll allow people to ask any questions and then pass it over to Alex for Hopeful. Tash is asking, we're stepping out for a work call, so probably not going to hear this. The recorded expo will be released. You can listen in again. Alex, can I turn the reins over to you?
Yes, sir. Ready to rock and roll.
There you go.
All righty. So thumbs up. Everyone can see my screen here.
Gotcha.
I accidentally went into my sound. All right, everyone. So this is the Hopeful platform. Given that we are the youngest of all of the organizations here, we did just launch our platform in July. I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to go through what we currently have in our current launch platform and also where we're going. As I mentioned in my presentation, really our priority right now is to be looking to have nonprofits be testing our current platform, recommending what's going to be the best to build out, especially some of our advanced intelligence features, which I'll go through too. So be more, if there's any questions, any recommendations, always in the chat, and then always happy to connect about this. So if I jump into the Hopeful platform here, a lot of the themes that I echoed within my presentation are present. It's really designed for you to very quickly get a hand on what's working, what's not working, how does it correlate to your donations, where are your donors coming from on social media. That's it. It's the goal here. So this is really designed for, you can sign up online for that 2-week trial I mentioned and do everything yourself. All you have to do is go into your settings and connect your social media accounts. And then within 1 business day, this data will start pulling. We all are also integrated with our partners with Sumac as well as Donor Perfect to be running donation tracking through here. So when you log in, if you're having a very busy start to the day and you need to get a handle on this, you can quickly see the key points. How far is your net being cast, likes and impressions, and who can you immediately convert, comments and shares. We also have this highlight section. Given that we've been really ramping up for this expo here, on our highlights, we've been focusing more on email rather than on socials in order to confirm partners. So we'll see that our socials here are down. For this, it's able to see, okay, we've been putting out a new case study. We've been putting out a new drive on social. What's working, what's not working? What's the real highlights here? Have our shares on Twitter gone up by 200%? What's the reason for that? And what's the correlation to your donations, and what are your top 3 posts across all of your channels? So you can see immediately what your top performing channel and your top performing post is here. So this is really your gateway to just quickly get a handle, save some time as it relates to not having to check individual accounts for their metrics. Don't have to jump onto Instagram, check the analytics there, jump into Facebook, check the analytics there. It's all in one place here. And then moving into the analytics side. So this is one of our most popular features to date. This is as it relates to your website and locating your donors there. So in terms of Google Analytics, you can actually dive deep into this and be able to see, okay, where are my biggest donor bases resonating from? Where are they coming from today? Our website right now is having a lot of popularity in Northern India and Pakistan, and also in Toronto and the Canadian East Coast overall. This can also be drilled down in individual regions and can also be in the coming weeks and months wanting to go down as far as the postal code for where you could actually engage. As I mentioned briefly in our presentation as well, and if some of you saw the demo during our breakouts, this is all connected to your Google Analytics console. All you have to do is log into your Google Analytics, and it will be tracking all of this data through here. You can see all of your audience metrics that you would get through Google on here as well. And you can also do cross comparisons. And you can also just be able to get suggestions on Google Ads. So Maros, I know you asked a question about how to get started. Google AdWords, especially with the Google AdWords grant for nonprofits, you want to start testing. This is one of our most popular features for younger nonprofits because we can essentially say, okay, well, this is the basis point of where you should be targeting your test ads of where people are engaging. This highlights section and this suggestion is going to be important for where we're going, so I'll touch on that later. But now moving into the publishing side. So if you want to be planning out long-term social media campaigns, it's absolutely critical that you have a social media calendar available, but you also have the ability to plan and schedule everything out in one platform. So with Hopeful at this point, you can go into your multiple different accounts. You can post from those accounts and even do multi-posting. So if you want to do Hopeful on Facebook and Hopeful on Twitter simultaneously, you can do that. Video, imagery, emojis, what have you, and time those out. You can also add those to a story, which I'll get to in a second, and essentially plan out your whole day. If you want to do all of your social strategy on a Sunday night and then take that off your plate for the rest of the week, absolutely feel free to do so. You can plan through the long term as well. And then finally, being able to create your reports. So now you're starting to get a sense of, as an organization, where people are engaging from, where are the key metrics, and how can you better correlate them with your donations. This is how you actually get that data in place and how you deal with it from a reporting perspective. So you can be able to configure your reports to cross-compare all your major metrics across social media channels, across your website and your donations. And you can be able to see, okay, well, my impressions are up all across the board. That's a lot of eyeballs on my cause, but donations aren't keeping up. Is there something I can be doing to tell my story better in order to be driving direct donations? Or if there's a lot of conversion, but your average gift size is getting smaller, why is that? Is there a potential way to be capturing a higher gift size, telling your story better that way? This is essentially how you do it. You schedule those reports. These reports can go to multiple team members. They are also graphical. So all the reports that you do get from us can be exported out directly. So if you release your annual impact reports to your donors, for instance, or you do have your board meetings, you can directly import those into that, save some time on the reporting aspect and the impact assessment. And these 4 features are basically the key building blocks of how you get started very quickly on social media as a nonprofit. However, what we are building in Hopeful is what we call storytelling and storytelling AI. So storytelling is essentially a way to take the concept of what I talked about, what Matt talked about, what all of us here have talked about of you live and die by the stories you tell. And how do you tell those stories better? And how do you actually use key information to do that? This is how you do it. So within Hopeful, you can do what's called creating stories. So for example, this from, again, from that client lift up that I mentioned during our presentation, this was a fundraiser that they put together. This is a demo fundraiser that we put together for them for the Recover Strong effort during the riots that happened in the United States in the summer. They can be able to create this story. And then if I go here, add in a name, description, story name, and you can add in all individual social media posts that you want correlated to that story. So if you want to be able to specifically track exactly which posts are related to that story, that's going to be here. And then when you create that story, all your key metrics are going to be showing up. So you can quickly at a glance see if you're doing your fundraising drive, if when a future physical event happens or a virtual event's coming up, how is all of that directly related? These stories will stack rank against each other. So you'll start being able to see trends in your overall storytelling. And be able to also be able to see, okay, well, if we can actually build onto this, then what is it that we can actually encourage from there? So this is what exists currently. So everything you're seeing is live, it's in use by our clients, but now is the time where we want to be building on that. What storytelling AI we want to grow into and what we're going to start testing in the next several weeks is this. So once you fully build out a complete story through our algorithms in the Hopeful platform, a couple of things happen. One, organic versus paid becomes possible. You're going to be able to exactly see how much money is that individual story driving, broken down by individual social media campaigns. And then finally, the key portion is the artificial intelligence. What hashtags, what keywords, what video commonalities, what image commonalities, time of day, demographic commonalities are leading this story to be your most successful, and how do you replicate that? The way we want to build this out, and is something that, as I mentioned, we are starting to test, and that's why we need as much support as possible to get this feedback on how do we tweak it, how do we make it better, is, okay, if you use this hashtag targeted towards this demographic on this story at this time of day, you could expect about a 2 to 3% increase in donations from this target group, and you could expect it over an X amount of period of time. So being able to directly have that information available here and essentially completely automate how you tell your storytelling and then report on that afterwards. So this is something that, as you can see, is already somewhat live, but has a ways to go. And then finally, another point that I wanted to bring up as I'm sharing here, this is some of the designs that we have in place specifically, but you want to get complex about it. This is what it will look like on the back end. You can be able to pull those reports and see exactly where the channels are, what donation dollars are coming from each of the channels, and break it down further here. Again, all of this graphically exportable. So that's where we are, and that's where we are now and where we're going. And I know this ran through this fairly quickly, so happy to take the time to run through any questions we have.
That was awesome, Alex. A couple questions did actually come through for you. Yep. Number one, some great news. You've got a new user. What are sort of like what's the flow that happens? Are they notified that their system's set up and so on?
Yeah, so I see that from Elaine. So Elaine, that's something we just rolled out for the automatic confirmation. So I did see that come through. I'll reach out to you directly to get everything set up right after this. So don't worry about that. And then that automatic process is going to be getting improved upon later this week. And then what other questions? Pablita, can we also track through non-social media platforms such as Constant Contact? So right now our priority is getting the donor piece put in. So being able to see the dollars and cents in comparison to social media. However, we have gotten some requests onto using those platforms such as Constant Contact that way. That's what we need help with. What is it with all of the different pieces that we can add into this? What's the strongest drive to go next? Do we build onto Constant Contact? Is there a way that you want us to be facilitating that microfunding directly? That is the stage of the startup of being constantly able to improve and looking for that feedback. So that's a good question, Paulina.